My 10-year-old daughter pressed a tablet into a plastic cutter on top of my mother's dryer. Music and laughter shook the wall while two thin mattresses lay behind her. "It has to last until the refill," Ava whispered, then apologized for worrying me. I sent $12,000 monthly for her care. I closed my hand around the uneven halves and told both girls to pack. In the next room, my sister reached for her phone, certain the sheriff would send me away. Instead, that broken dose would force every adult in the house to explain what they called care. 20 minutes earlier, I had stepped through my parents' front door with my suitcase still in the rental car and the taste of airplane coffee in my mouth. I had not told anyone my flight had changed. The sale had made me a millionaire on paper, but the number meant nothing beside the 8 months I had spent away from my daughters. Every call from London had ended with my mother's calm assurance that Chloe and Ava were healthy, busy, and keeping up with school. I wanted one moment that was not arranged through a screen. The first thing that reached me was laughter. Music rolled from the living room, and the dining table had disappeared beneath trays of food, wine glasses, and cards printed with the logo of Brooke's Family Support Program. 15 or 20 people filled the room. My sister stood near a display board covered with photographs of smiling children. Patricia saw me before Chloe did. "My baby is home," she cried, rushing forward with both arms open. She hugged me hard enough to turn my body away from the room. "Why didn't you tell us? We would have planned something." I wanted to surprise the girls. "They're fine. They're studying." The answer came too quickly, the same 7 words she had used so many times that I could hear them before she spoke. I looked over her shoulder. Chloe stood beside the sofa with a silver tray balanced against her hip. She was taller than when I had left, thinner through the shoulders, and wearing a pale dress I did not recognize. Ava followed her with folded napkins pressed to her chest. Neither girl ran toward me. For 1 second, Chloe's face opened. Her lips parted and the tray dipped. Then she glanced toward the dining room, straightened it, and said, "You're back early." Ava smiled, because Chloe smiled. I moved around my mother. "Come here." Chloe set the tray down first. Ava waited until she did the same. When I wrapped my arms around them, Chloe's body stayed stiff between me and her sister. Ava felt too light. I kissed the top of her head and noticed the faint tremor in the hand gripping my coat. "Are you cold?" "She's tired," Chloe answered. I asked Ava. Ava looked at Chloe before saying, "I'm okay." Brooke appeared with the polished smile she used in donor photographs. "You walked into our little supporter reception. We were celebrating the renewal application." Her hand settled on my elbow, gently turning me toward the display board. At the center was a photograph of Chloe and Ava standing between Patricia and Brooke. Beneath it, a caption praised the stable home and full-time care my family had provided after Daniel's death. "Why are the girls serving?" Brooke laughed softly. "They wanted to help. They love being part of this." Across the room, Mason sat in an armchair with a plate balanced on his stomach. Walter watched me from near the window, then looked down at his glass. My phone vibrated inside my coat. The buyer's transition team was calling from London. 3 weeks ago, I would have answered before the second ring. I darkened the screen. "Ava, when did you last eat?" "She had dinner," Patricia said. Ava's fingers tightened around the napkins. "What did you have?" "She said she ate," Chloe replied. Brooke lifted one finger at me, still smiling for the room. "They're helping for another few minutes, then they can spend the rest of the night with you. I didn't come home to watch my children work at your party." The nearest conversations softened. Patricia's smile narrowed. "Please don't make this unpleasant. They have had structure here. They have been happy." Ava swayed once, then pressed her palm against the dining table. I reached for her, but Chloe caught her elbow first. "She just needs the bathroom. I can take her." "No," Chloe lowered her voice. "I know where her things are." Ava pulled free and slipped through the kitchen doorway. Brooke stepped into my path. "Samantha, let her have a minute. You just arrived after 8 months. This is a lot." That sentence made something inside me go still. I walked around her. The hallway behind the kitchen was dimmer and cooler. A door stood half open at the end. I heard a plastic snap, then something scrape against metal. Ava stood at the dryer with her back to me. A white tablet rested inside a blue plastic cutter. Beside it lay 3 uneven halves in the lid of an old pill bottle. "What are you doing?" She jerked so hard the cutter fell shut. "Nothing." I picked up the bottle. The prescription label carried her name, but there were far fewer tablets than there should have been. "Why are these cut?" Her eyes filled. "It has to last until the refill." My gaze moved past her. 2 thin mattresses had been pushed behind the dryer and folded upright for the day. Plastic bins labeled with Chloe's name and Ava's name were stacked beneath detergent and bleach. Their shoes lined the wall. A hairbrush, 2 school books, and Daniel's framed photograph sat on a laundry basket. This was where my daughters lived. I opened my hand. "Give me the rest of the tablets." Ava stared at the floor. "I'm sorry." "For what?" "For making you worry." The music thudded through the wall. Someone laughed loudly enough to start 3 other people laughing. I looked at the mattresses, then at the pill halves in my palm. Chloe appeared in the doorway and stopped when she saw what I was holding. "Get your bag," I told her. Her face changed, not to relief, but alarm. "Mom, both of you are leaving with me." Patricia's shoes clicked down the hallway. Brooke followed, with Walter behind them. My mother saw the bottle and mattresses, then sighed as though I had found an untidy closet. "They sleep here only when Mason has friends over," she said. "There are school books in a laundry basket. We had to make adjustments." "With $96,000? Brooke lowered her voice. "Not in front of the girls. You used their picture to tell a room full of people you gave them a stable home." "We did give them a home," Patricia said. "You gave them money and video calls." I put the bottle in my coat pocket. "Chloe, take Ava upstairs and get your clothes." Brooke blocked the hallway. "You cannot storm in after 8 months and drag them away because you feel guilty. They are my daughters." "On paper," Patricia said. The words landed, but I did not give her the reaction she wanted. "Move." Chloe had not moved either. She held her canvas bag against her ribs. Brooke looked at her. "Tell Samantha you want to stay." I turned to Chloe. "Do you?" Her mouth opened, then closed. Patricia reached for my pocket. I stepped back. "Do not touch me." The last guests began collecting coats. Mason stared at the floor. Walter said, "Patricia, maybe we should calm down," but did not move toward us. Brooke took out her phone. "Who are you calling?" "The sheriff," she said. "You are causing a disturbance, and the girls are frightened." Ava's hand slid into mine. It was cold and trembling. Brooke gave the dispatcher the address, then said I had been gone for 8 months and was trying to remove 2 children who did not want to leave. Patricia returned to the living room and told the remaining guests there had been a family misunderstanding. I stayed between my daughters and the hallway, while Chloe clutched her bag and watched the front windows. Minutes later, white headlights swept across the ceiling. Red and blue light moved over Brooke's display board, over the photographs of my daughters, and over my mother's composed face. As the sheriff's deputy stepped onto the porch, Patricia was still saying, "They're fine. They're studying." The deputy stepped inside with one hand resting near his belt, not on his weapon. His eyes moved from Brooke's phone to my mother's rigid smile, then to Ava's fingers wrapped around mine. "Who called?" "I did," Brooke said. "My sister has been out of the country for 8 months. She came in without warning, started shouting, and now she's trying to take 2 frightened children out of the only stable home they have." "I didn't shout," I said. "And they are my daughters." The deputy looked at me. "Do you have identification?" I gave him my driver's license. "I also have the adoption decree and the temporary caregiver authorization my mother signed when I left." Brooke folded her arms. "She cannot disappear for 8 months and come back pretending none of that matters." "It matters," I said. "It does not make you their mother." The deputy raised one hand before Brooke could answer. I need one person speaking at a time. The house had become unnaturally quiet. The last guests stood near the front door with coats over their arms, pretending not to listen. Brooke's display board still glowed beneath the lamps. Chloe and Ava smiled from its photographs, while the real Chloe held her canvas bag so tightly that her knuckles had turned pale. I opened the folder on my phone, containing the adoption decree and the temporary authorization that allowed Patricia to handle routine school and medical matters while I was abroad. The deputy read both without commenting. Patricia moved closer. I have been their caregiver since October. You had limited authorization, I said. Not custody. We fed them. We took them to school. We were here. My hand closed around the pill bottle inside my pocket. You put them in a laundry room. That is not what happened, Brooke said. Mason needed his room and the girls chose to sleep together. The deputy looked toward the hallway. Is the laundry room where they sleep? It is a temporary arrangement, Patricia replied. May I see it? Brooke's expression tightened. Is that necessary? You called us, he said. You reported a dispute involving children. I need to understand what is happening. No one answered. I led him down the hallway. Ava stayed beside me. Chloe followed several steps behind, with Patricia close enough to touch her shoulder if she chose. The mattresses were still standing behind the dryer. The pill cutter remained on top, its clear lid closed over white powder. The plastic bins sat beneath the shelf of detergent. Daniel's photograph rested crookedly on the laundry basket. The deputy stopped in the doorway. How long have they been sleeping here? Only a few weeks, Patricia said. Walter's gaze settled on the floor. When I asked whether that was true, he said, it was supposed to be temporary. Patricia snapped his name, and he said nothing else. The deputy stepped closer to the dryer. What medication is this? I took the bottle from my pocket and handed it to him. It is Ava's seizure medication. She said she has been cutting the tablets to make them last until the next refill. Ava pressed against my side. Brooke spoke quickly. Chloe manages the schedule. She is 14 and very responsible. I felt Chloe go still behind me. The deputy looked at Brooke. A 14-year-old is responsible for another child's prescription medication? She only helps, Brooke said. Who is the adult responsible for the refill? Brooke glanced at Patricia, who blamed an insurance delay. I knew our coverage had not lapsed. Has Ava missed any doses? The deputy asked. No, Chloe said too quickly. Then she swallowed. We made them last. The deputy asked to speak with both girls separately. Patricia objected, but he directed the adults back to the living room. They should have someone they trust, Brooke said. They do, I replied, then regretted the certainty. Trust was not something I could declare into existence. The deputy offered Chloe a choice of places. She chose the porch. When I started to follow, she said, alone. I stopped. Through the narrow window, I watched Chloe hold the bag across her stomach while she spoke to him beneath the porch light. Once, she looked through the glass directly at Ava. Patricia moved beside me. You see what you are doing to her. I kept my eyes on Chloe. No, I am seeing what was already done. You chose London. I trusted you with my children. You chose work. The words were quiet enough that the deputy could not hear them through the door. Ava did. Her hand slipped out of mine. I crouched beside her. Look at me. She stared at the carpet. You are my daughter. Nothing she says changes that. Ava's lips trembled, but she did not answer. Chloe returned with a face that revealed nothing. Ava glanced at her before agreeing to speak on the porch too. I watched my 10-year-old walk outside with a stranger, because the people I had trusted had made strangers feel dangerous and family feel conditional. Brooke immediately tried to question Chloe. I stopped her. Chloe flinched when I called myself her mother. The deputy returned with Ava after only a few minutes and did not repeat what either child had said. The deputy confirmed that Patricia had no custody order, restraining order, or restriction on my parental rights. I am not a family court judge, he said. But this authorization does not prevent the children's legal parent from taking them home. When Brooke protested, he told her his job that night was to keep everyone safe. Patricia shook her head. Samantha abandoned them. I went to London for 8 months, called every week, paid every bill, and left them with people I believed loved them. Money is not parenting, Patricia said. No, I replied. Tonight proved that. The deputy told Patricia to release the girls' school and medical records with their belongings. Walter returned from the office with a thick folder while I carried out the plastic bins. Chloe kept the canvas bag pressed to her chest, so I let her carry it. Patricia brought down 2 backpacks and a laundry basket of clothes. There were no toys and no framed photographs besides Daniel's, nothing that looked as though 2 girls had occupied a home for 8 months. Before we left, the deputy handed my phone back. I will be completing a report based on what I observed. Because medication and sleeping conditions are involved, the information may also be forwarded for a child welfare assessment. Chloe's head snapped up. Assessment? It does not mean anyone is taking you anywhere tonight, he said. She stepped closer to Ava. Will they split us up? The question silenced the room more completely than shouting ever could. I moved toward her, then stopped before touching her. No one is separating you from Ava. How do you know? Because you are both coming home with me. That is not what I asked. I had no answer strong enough to erase whatever she had been told. All I could offer was a promise she had no reason to trust yet. I will not agree to anything that separates you, I said. Her eyes stayed on mine for a moment, then dropped. The deputy did not hand me my daughters, or declare that I had won. He remained in the driveway while we loaded their belongings, and made sure no one blocked us. Ava climbed into the back seat first. Chloe sat beside her with the canvas bag across both their laps. As I pulled away, red and blue light moved across my parents' windows. I had imagined this drive for months. I had pictured Chloe asking about London, Ava opening the gifts in my suitcase, both girls arguing over which song to play. Instead, the only sound was the turn signal and Ava's uneven breathing. I glanced at them in the mirror. You are safe now. Chloe looked out the window. Chloe? She turned toward me slowly. You only came back because the deal was finished, she said. Not because we needed you. Every answer that rose inside me sounded like a defense. I had called, sent money, and told myself that keeping the girls in the same schools would protect them from another loss. None of it changed the back seat of my rental car. You are right about one thing, I said. The deal is finished, and I should have known you needed me before tonight. Chloe turned back toward the window. Ava leaned against her with the canvas bag across both their laps. 30 minutes later, my house looked exactly as I had left it. Daniel's coat still hung on the last hook. Ava's yellow rain boots waited beneath the bench, and Chloe's old-school photograph stood on the console. I had paid someone to preserve the rooms, and mistaken preservation for readiness. We are home, I said. Chloe looked past me into the hallway. For how long? For good. Her expression did not change. Upstairs, Ava touched her old doorframe as though she were visiting someone else's house. Chloe said they would sleep together in her room. I agreed without conditions, and she watched me as though the condition had simply not been spoken yet. Chloe unpacked Ava's medication and a notebook filled with dates and tablet counts. I will handle the medicine now, I said. I know the schedule. I believe you, but an adult should have been handling it. I did not make mistakes. I said you should never have had to. That is not the same thing to me. She gave me the bottles but kept the notebook. When I placed the medication in the bathroom cabinet, she asked what would happen if I was not there or failed to answer. I will answer, I said. You always say things like that when you are home. You do not have to believe me tonight. For the first time since we left my parents' house, she looked directly at me. After the girls fell asleep together, I called the pharmacy, Ava's neurologist, and the nurse line. The nurse told me not to double any dose and to follow the existing prescription until the doctor reviewed the history. I wrote down every instruction. At 2 in the morning, I opened 37 unread messages from London, saw the transition director asking when I would return, and closed the laptop without replying. The next morning, Ava asked permission to take an egg from the plate. Chloe came in checking the clock, the bottle, and her notebook. I wrote the dose down, I said. What if your phone dies? I wrote it on paper too. Chloe, I can manage one prescription. Her pencil stopped, and Ava lowered her fork. I am sorry, I said. I know you kept track because you were protecting her. I did protect her. You were an adult in London. I cannot change yesterday. I can change what happens today. That does not make today safe. No, I said. It does not. Later, I changed passwords and blocked Patricia and Brooke from the girls' phones. Chloe watched me take control of every contact. So you decide who we talk to, until I understand what happened. She gave me the same obedient nod she had used at the party. I am trying to keep you safe, I said. That is what Grandma said. She took the phone and walked upstairs. By noon, the neurologist's office had reviewed the refill history. The prescription itself had not changed. Insurance had not denied it. The final refill request had simply been submitted late. Only the last 3 weeks were unaccounted for. That should have comforted me. Instead, it told me the danger had not been an accident lasting 8 months. At some point, an adult had seen the medicine running out and chosen not to fix it. The doctor arranged a new supply and a follow-up appointment. When I collected the medication, the tablets matched the prescription, and the bottle was full. A child welfare worker visited that afternoon. She spoke briefly with each girl about immediate safety, confirmed that Ava's medication and medical care had been restored, and found no reason to remove them from my home. That assessment was about whether they were safe now. It did not require either child to build a case about the past. I placed the new bottle in the bathroom cabinet and updated the paper schedule. I wanted Chloe to see that there would be no shortage, no guessing, no need for her notebook. That evening, I heard the bathroom drawer slide open. Ava stood on the bath mat with the new bottle in one hand and the blue pill cutter in the other. My first thought was that Chloe had given it to her. Then I saw Chloe at the end of the hallway, frozen outside her room. Ava, I said carefully, put the tablet down. She pressed it into the cutter. We have enough medicine. I know. Then why are you cutting it? The plastic lid snapped shut. Ava looked at the 2 pieces. So there will be some left. There is an entire bottle left. For later. I crouched beside her. Later when? Her lower lip trembled. When you have to go again. Behind me, Chloe said nothing. I took the uneven halves from the cutter and placed them in my palm. They looked almost identical to the pieces I had found on my mother's dryer, but the reason had changed. At Patricia's house, Ava had divided the medicine because the bottle was running out. Here, in a house with enough rooms, enough food, and a full prescription, she divided it because she believed safety itself could run out. I am not leaving, I said. Ava stared at the floor. Okay. She did not believe me. I returned the pieces to the bottle so the doctor could tell me what to do with them, then placed the cutter in the cabinet. I did not lock it. Chloe moved toward Ava, but I held out my hand. Let me, I said. Her shoulders stiffened. Ava looked between us, waiting to see which one of us would win. That was when I understood the fight I had created. By taking control of every phone, every bottle, and every decision, I had not shown Chloe that an adult would protect them. I had shown her that the person with the keys made the rules. I lowered my hand. Chloe, I said, will you sit with us while I call the nurse? She hesitated, then came into the bathroom. We sat on the floor together. I put the call on speaker. The nurse explained that we should not improvise with the split pieces and repeated the prescribed schedule. Chloe asked 2 questions I had not thought to ask. I wrote down the answers without pretending I already knew them. When the call ended, Ava leaned against the cabinet. I am sorry, she whispered. I looked at the full bottle between us. You do not have to apologize for needing medicine. She nodded, but the apology remained in her posture. That night, after the girls went upstairs, Chloe's phone lit up on the kitchen counter. I had missed one account when I changed the settings. An email had arrived from Brooke. The subject line read, "You deserve the truth." The message contained only 3 sentences. "Your mother left you for 8 months and came back when she had money. She cannot buy back the time she chose to miss. You know who kept you and Ava together when she was gone." I looked toward the ceiling, where the girls were sleeping in the same bed, despite 2 empty rooms. I had brought them out of my mother's house. Brooke intended to make sure they never believed they belonged in mine. I read Brooke's email twice, then closed the laptop before anger could decide what I did next. The message was not meant for me. It had been sent to an account Chloe had used for school projects, one I had never known existed. Brooke had not asked whether the girls were safe. She had not mentioned Ava's medicine or the mattresses behind the dryer. She had gone directly to the wound she knew how to open. He had left. They had stayed. I carried Chloe's phone upstairs and stopped outside her bedroom. Light showed beneath the door. I could hear the soft turn of pages and Ava's breathing. I knocked. Chloe opened the door only wide enough to see me. "Why do you have my phone?" An email came through. Her eyes dropped to the screen. She knew who it was before I said anything. "I'm going to block that account too. It is mine. She is using it to pressure you. She is telling me what she thinks. She is telling you what she needs you to believe." Chloe folded her arms. "How is that different from what you are doing?" The answer came too slowly. I held out the phone. "You are right. It is your account. I should have asked before opening the message." She took it from me, but her suspicion remained. "I want to understand what happened," I said. "Not just the room or the medicine. All of it." Chloe glanced over her shoulder. Ava was sitting against the headboard with Daniel's photograph beside her. "Not tonight," Chloe said. I nodded and went downstairs. The next morning, the child welfare worker confirmed in writing what she had told us after the visit. The girls would remain with me while the safety assessment closed. "No one is planning to separate you," I told Chloe. "Planning is not the same as promising." "No," I said. "It is not." I left the worker's number on the counter in case Chloe wanted to call without me present. For the rest of the morning, I tried to work without touching my laptop. I washed clothes from the plastic bins and found that most of Ava's shirts were too small. Chloe had 3 school uniforms but only 1 pair of jeans. There was no proof in those details by themselves. Children grew, clothes wore out. Still, every item made me want an answer. By afternoon, I had arranged the weekly video updates into a folder by date. Patricia and Brooke had sent one nearly every Sunday while I was in London. Some lasted 2 minutes. Others were less than 30 seconds. The thumbnails looked almost identical. The same sofa, the same lamp, the same framed landscape behind Chloe's shoulder. The girls in clean clothes, sitting close together. I asked Chloe to come into the study. She paused in the doorway when she saw the videos on my screen. "I am not asking you to tell me everything," I said. "I only need help understanding what I am looking at. You already decided what happened. I know where you slept. I know Ava's medicine ran short. I do not know how long things were wrong, or who made which decisions." Chloe stayed by the door. I opened a video from February. Patricia's voice came from behind the camera. "Tell your mother about school." Chloe smiled at the lens. "We're fine. We're studying." Ava repeated the sentence. I stopped the video. Was Grandma standing behind the phone? Yes. Was Brooke there? I do not remember. Did someone tell you what to say? Chloe's gaze moved to the screen. We said we were fine. That is not what I asked. Her shoulders rose slightly. I opened a photograph from Brooke's supporter packet. Chloe and Ava stood beside a table covered with brochures. Were you asked whether you wanted to attend this? I do not know. You either were or you were not. She said it helped families. Who said that? Chloe looked toward the hallway. I followed her gaze. Ava stood near the stairs, one hand on the railing. I lowered my voice. Did Brooke take you out of school for this? You have the school records. Why are you asking me? Because records do not tell me whether you wanted to go. What answer do you need? I need the truth. Her expression changed. It was not anger at first. It was recognition. Grandma needed one script, she said. Now you need another. That is not fair. No? She wanted you to lie. And you want me to say all the right things so you can prove she lied. I closed the photograph. I am trying to protect you. Then stop making me explain why. Ava came into the room. Her face had lost color. Chloe moved toward her immediately. Did you eat? Ava nodded. Do you feel strange? A little. Chloe reached for the medication schedule in her pocket. I stood. Let me check. I know what to do. So do I. Ava looked between us. Her breathing had become quick and shallow. That stopped me. I had brought Chloe into the study because I feared evidence would disappear. In less than 10 minutes, I had turned the room into another place, where she had to choose words carefully, while Ava absorbed every change in our voices. I shut the laptop. No more questions. Chloe stared at me. I mean it. We are done. I guided Ava to the sofa and asked only what the nurse had told me to ask. No seizure occurred. Her hands trembled for several minutes, then settled as the room became quiet. Chloe sat on the floor beside her, still holding the notebook. I brought water and placed it within Ava's reach. I am sorry, I said. Ava immediately replied. It's okay. I was talking to both of you. Chloe looked at the closed study door. Are you going to ask again later? Not like that. That is not an answer. No, I said. I am not going to bring you back in there and ask you to build a case for me. She studied my face, searching for the condition behind the promise. I had none to offer. That evening, after the girls went upstairs, I returned to the study alone. I did not open the photographs or financial records. I opened only the videos that had already been sent to me. Across 3 videos, Chloe answered before Ava, touched 2 fingers to her knee when she mentioned sleeping badly, and shifted to block the view behind them. In the dark glass of a cabinet, Patricia's reflection stood with her arms folded. I watched the signal again. It was Chloe's movement, timed before Ava's sentence changed. I moved forward again. Chloe asked me when I was coming home. My own face filled a small square in the corner of the saved video. I looked exhausted. Behind me, people moved through a conference room in London. I am trying, I had said. Could you come this week? What happened? Chloe looked off camera. Nothing. Then why this week? She said nothing. I heard myself exhale. Chloe, I cannot fly home every time something happens. That is why Grandma is there. A negotiation had collapsed that morning, and I had ended the call believing Chloe was lonely and Patricia was capable. The crisis explained my impatience. It did not change what she heard. On the video, Chloe nodded. Then she touched Ava's knee. They're fine, Patricia said from behind the camera. They're studying. Chloe repeated it. I sat motionless as the screen went dark. I had been searching for the moment. Someone forced Chloe to lie. What I found was worse. She had learned the timing. She had watched the adults, adjusted the frame, redirected Ava, and ended dangerous sentences before anyone else had to intervene. The child I thought had been trapped inside the performance had also been keeping it alive. I returned to the February video and stopped at the instant before Ava answered. Chloe's hand rested on her sister's knee, 2 fingers pressing lightly through the fabric. It did not look like a threat. It looked like a signal they had practiced, until neither of them needed words. The next morning, Chloe found me at the kitchen table with the laptop closed. I am not going to ask you to explain the videos, I said. I already asked in a way that trapped you. You still want to know. I do. But wanting an answer does not give me the right to force it out of you. I told her I had heard the call again, including the moment I said I could not fly home every time something happened. You were busy, she said. That does not make it less painful. I should have asked why you wanted me home and made sure you could answer without anyone listening. Every explanation about London belonged to me. None of it changed what she had heard. What did Grandma tell you after that call? I asked, then added, You do not have to answer. You just asked. I know. I am trying to learn how to ask without making the answer the price of staying here. Something shifted in her expression. She sat down. Grandma said you proved her right, that Dad was gone, so there was nothing keeping you with us except paperwork. She said adoptions get reviewed when parents leave. I did not defend the word leave. I had meant temporary work. Chloe had experienced an empty bedroom, scheduled calls, and a mother on another continent. Correcting her vocabulary would only have protected me from the weight of her meaning. She said if school, doctors, or child services found out Ava was sick and you were not here, they might put us somewhere safe. Not together. The deputy's questions, Chloe's grip on the canvas bag, and her refusal to let Ava out of reach had all pointed toward that fear. Hearing her name, it still felt different. Patricia had not needed a court order to control Chloe. She had only needed to make separation sound possible. Hearing it still took the air out of the room. Brooke did not say it that way, Chloe continued. She said families who cooperate get more choices. Then the rest came without another question. Patricia chose the sofa, the clothes, and the words for the Sunday videos. If Ava looked exhausted, the approved explanation was that she had stayed up reading. If I asked about school, the girls were fine and studying. If I asked where they had slept, Chloe redirected the call before the laundry room entered the frame. Chloe made sure Ava's hair was brushed, moved her closer to the lamp, and watched the adults beyond the camera. If Ava said she wanted me, that the medicine made her tired, or that she hated sleeping beside the dryer, Chloe touched 2 fingers to her knee. She knew what it meant, Chloe said. She would stop before Grandma had to say anything. I was not protecting you, she said. I was protecting Ava. If she said the wrong thing, Grandma called her a problem. Brooke said the program could lose support. Then they talked about strangers deciding where we lived. So you learned to stop her first. I kept us together. There was accusation in the words, but beneath it was pride. She had built her identity around succeeding at a task no child should have been given. She opened the canvas bag and laid the documents on the table one by one. Birth certificates, copies of the adoption decree, Ava's prescription numbers, Daniel's death certificate. The papers had been folded, unfolded, and returned so often that the edges had softened. I kept the bag where I could reach it, she said. If someone came, I could prove we belonged together. Grandma said people ask questions when the legal parent is not the real parent. I am your real parent. Then why did I need proof? Because I did not make sure you felt protected without carrying it yourself. Upstairs, a drawer opened, and Ava's footsteps crossed the hall. Chloe looked toward the sound and told me the final part. She had divided the tablets for 3 weeks. She had warned Patricia every day that the bottle was running low. Patricia said Brooke was handling it. Brooke said Patricia had the pharmacy information. Each woman had made the missing refill someone else's task, until Chloe became the only person still counting. If Ava ran out at school, the nurse would call, she said. Then people would ask questions. Grandma said questions were how families got reviewed. So you counted the tablets against the days. I used the cutter because the pieces looked more even than when I broke them by hand. The practical detail hurt more than panic would have. She had solved the mechanics of an impossible choice because no adult had removed the choice. You knew changing the dose was dangerous. I knew. I thought being sick for a little while was better than being taken apart. Her voice broke. She looked 14 again. Not like a guardian or a witness, but like a girl who had believed every available choice could separate her from her sister. I moved my hand across the table, then stopped before reaching hers. You should never have had to choose between Ava's medicine and staying together. No one else was choosing. I am choosing now. She looked at me. You and Ava stay together. You do not have to give me the notebook. explain every video, or prove what happened in that house. You stay here whether you talk or not. What if they say I helped? You did help maintain the lie. Her face closed. But you were a child trying to protect your sister from something adults taught you to fear. Those facts can exist together. You sound like you already decided what it means. I decided what it does not mean. It does not mean you are responsible for what they did. Ava appeared wearing one sock and asked whether we were fighting. Chloe answered no automatically and started to rise when Ava needed help. I can help her, I said. Chloe sat back down, only after I found the missing shoe. Then I told her I had canceled the interview about the videos and the room. What if they need me to prove it? They will have to find another way. There might not be one. That will be the adult's problem. She studied me, as if the sentence violated a law she had lived under for months. London called. The transition director reminded me that leaving before the end of the quarter meant forfeiting my bonus, surrendering the remaining operational authority, and transferring the final handover to my designated successor. The contract allowed it. The cost would be mine. I understand. Begin the transfer today. He asked whether I wanted 24 hours to reconsider. No. I looked at Chloe as I said it. She had spent 8 months measuring every adult promise against the moment it might expire. When the call ended, Chloe asked, "How much money did you lose?" "Enough that I will notice." "Because of us?" "Because I made a decision about where I need to be." "That is the same thing." "No. If I say I lost it because of you, then one day you may think you owe me for staying. You do not." When Ava rubbed her temple, Chloe reached for the notebook. "Will you sit with her while I call the nurse?" I asked. As her sister, not as the person responsible for her medicine. Chloe held Ava's hand while I made the call, and let me answer the nurse's questions. Ava had slept badly and needed rest, not an improvised dose or another emergency solution. Upstairs, Chloe pulled back the blanket automatically. "Do you want me to stay?" Ava shook her head. "Mom can." Chloe's face tightened for 1 second, then softened. She handed me the water glass and stopped at the bedroom door. That evening, I marked the saved videos private and not to be used without the girls' consent. "What happens now?" Chloe asked. "I look at what the adults did. If their records are not enough, the process takes longer." Her canvas bag rested beside the stairs, instead of hanging from her shoulder. I did not point it out. "From now on," I said, "the adults answer with what they did and what they signed. You and Ava do not have to build the case for me." I began with the things no child had created. The deputy's report arrived first. It described 2 thin mattresses stored behind the dryer, clothing in plastic bins, a pill cutter on top of the machine, and an adult statement that Chloe managed Ava's medication schedule. It did not call Patricia cruel or Brooke dishonest. It recorded what each person had said and what the deputy had seen. The child welfare intake summary was just as plain. Chloe and Ava were now living with their legal mother. Ava had access to her prescription and medical follow-up. No immediate removal was recommended. The report noted concerns about sleeping arrangements, delayed medication, and the transfer of adult caregiving responsibilities to an older sibling. I read both documents twice. Neither required Chloe to explain why she had touched Ava's knee. Neither required Ava to apologize into a camera. The adults had called the sheriff and spoken for themselves. That was where I would begin. I created 3 folders on my laptop. Money, school, program. This was not a search for a hidden confession. It was a test of whether the adult's own paperwork could survive beside the conditions the deputy had recorded. My own statements showed 8 monthly transfers of $12,000 to Patricia, $96,000 in total. I had checked that the money left my account, and never once required an accounting of what happened after she received it. The second trail came from exhibits Brooke's nonprofit had attached to its county renewal packet. To support its claims of household assistance, the program had submitted redacted copies of transfers from Patricia marked Program Household Support. The first appeared 11 days after I left. By spring, more than $24,000 from the money intended for Chloe and Ava had entered the Front Range Family Support Network. I matched the exhibit dates against my own transfers. In several months, money left my account for the girls, reached Patricia, and then moved into Brooke's program within days. I had never asked Patricia for receipts because I had treated trust as a substitute for oversight. The same renewal packet contained grant summaries, expense reports, and service descriptions. I did not have Patricia's private bank access. I had the records Brooke and Patricia had chosen to give the county. Emergency family stabilization, household support, bereavement services, safe housing for children after parental loss. The girls' names did not appear in the public version. Their photographs did. One image showed Chloe and Ava standing in front of my parents' house, wearing the same dresses from one of the Sunday videos. Beneath it, Brooke had written that 2 bereaved sisters had remained together in a stable extended family home through coordinated housing, medical supervision, and educational support. I stared at the words medical supervision until they blurred. Then I opened the photograph from the supporter reception. Behind Brooke's display board, the living room looked warm and full. Chloe and Ava smiled from the center of the poster. No one looking at that image would have known their belongings were stacked beneath detergent bottles. A link beneath the photograph led to a contractor progress report. The report included a short case summary, 2 sisters, 1 deceased parent, 1 surviving adoptive parent temporarily working overseas, continuous placement, with extended family, separate age-appropriate sleeping space, adult-managed medical routine, reliable school attendance. At the bottom were 2 certifications: Brooke Collins, Executive Director; Patricia Collins, Primary Household Caregiver. Each certification stated that the information was complete and that the named adults were responsible for the services described. I did not feel triumph when I saw their signatures. I felt something colder. They had not merely told me the girls were fine. They had made the same promise to the county in language designed to release money, and they had accepted responsibility every time they signed. The school records office confirmed 7 early releases for Chloe and 5 for Ava, several marked as family program events. Patricia had used the caregiver authorization I signed to remove them from class. I had imagined that permission, covering appointments and emergencies. I had not imagined it becoming transportation for Brooke's case study. The summary pages I had checked from London looked normal. The detailed records showed Chloe released for a family resilience luncheon, Ava removed for a community presentation, and both signed out for the event where Brooke presented them as evidence that her program kept bereaved siblings stable. 2 releases were marked voluntary. Patricia's signature authorized them. I moved the files into the school folder and stopped. A private video could have made the pattern harder to deny. In it, Ava cried after Patricia asked her to explain how grateful she was to live with family, while Chloe answered beside her. I pictured county staff pausing Ava's face and replaying Chloe's movements. Then, I closed the file and marked it private. The case might move more slowly, but I would not use their distress when the adults had already created records of their own. The nonprofit's expense summary listed a household room conversion under program support. The attached invoice covered flooring, built-in shelving, paint, and a desk at Patricia's address. A photograph showed Mason smiling in the finished room. I recognized the window. It had been Chloe's room. The work was completed 6 weeks after I left. 3 days later, Patricia transferred $4,000 into the nonprofit, and Brooke's expense ledger allocated that amount toward the room conversion cost. My daughters had lost their bedroom while money intended to house them helped convert it for Mason. I printed the adult-created pages, the transfers, signed progress report, school releases, room invoice, expense allocation, and deputy's observations. I left the medication notebook and private videos out. Late that afternoon, an email arrived from the county office overseeing Brooke's contract. The subject line referred to a preliminary compliance review. The message said the sheriff's report and child welfare referral appeared inconsistent with statements in the contractor's renewal materials. The county requested supporting records regarding housing, educational participation, medical supervision, and the use of the children's images. A second paragraph asked whether Chloe and Ava would be available to describe their experience with the program. I read that sentence, then looked toward the backyard. Chloe sat beneath the maple tree with her knees drawn up, reading while Ava chalked circles onto the patio. For once, Chloe was not holding the canvas bag. It rested near the back door. I returned to the email. The county had not threatened me. The request was written politely and offered safeguards. The girl's testimony might have shortened the process. Chloe could have explained the room. Ava could have explained the pills. Their presence could have made every denial harder. It also would have required them to perform the worst months of their lives for another institution. I typed my response. Chloe and Ava would not participate in interviews, presentations, recorded statements, or the compliance meeting. I would provide documents created by the adults and answer questions about my own decisions. The children's private videos, medication notebook, and personal communications were not being offered. I read it once before sending. A reply came the next morning. The review would proceed. The county requested copies of the adult-signed records and scheduled an administrative conference for the following month. The final line repeated the request. If circumstances changed, the children would still be welcome to attend. The county notice stayed on my desk for 3 days. I did not repeat the county's invitation. Turning my refusal into a daily discussion would have been pressure wearing a gentler face. On the 4th afternoon, Chloe showed me a message from Patricia. The county may close your aunt's program because your mother refuses to let anyone hear the truth. Children who need help will lose it. You are old enough to understand what your silence is doing. Chloe and Ava had been deciding whether Chloe should attend the compliance meeting. If the program closes, other children could lose help, Chloe said. What if telling them what happened keeps that from happening? That may be true. It still does not make Brooke's contract your responsibility. She had expected a prohibition. Instead, I laid out the choices once. Chloe could attend, send a limited statement, answer selected questions, or refuse. Whatever she chose, she and Ava would remain with me. What would you choose? That is not the same as what you should choose. If I stay away, Grandma will say I am hiding. If I go, she will say you told me what to say. There may not be an answer that controls what she says. Her frustration softened into fear. For months, Chloe had survived by finding the exact sentence that prevented the next consequence. Now she had to consider that Patricia might speak anyway, and Chloe could still be safe. Ava climbed onto the chair beside her. I can tell them. The pills were my idea. Chloe turned sharply. No, I showed you how. Then they will blame you, Ava whispered. The room went still. No one solves this by choosing which child should carry the blame, I said. Neither of you has to volunteer so the other can be safe. Chloe asked for time. Then she watched while I blocked Patricia's account, confirming each setting before I pressed the final button. Control had been used against her for months. I wanted her to see exactly what I changed, and to know she could ask me to stop. That evening, Chloe placed the medication notebook on my desk. The blue cover had softened at the corners, and the elastic band had stretched from being opened every day. Inside were every full and divided dose, each remaining tablet count, and every date an adult promised the refill was coming. It could prove I told them, she said. You can use it. Do you want strangers reading it? She glanced toward the hallway. No. Then it stays private. What if the other records are not enough? The process takes longer. She reminded me that I had already lost money by staying. I placed the notebook back in her hands. My bonus does not buy the right to your private record. She held it for a moment, as though waiting for me to change the terms, then tucked it beneath her arm. The notebook could have made my argument cleaner. Returning it made the boundary clearer. For once, Chloe's private record remained hers, even when an adult wanted what it could prove. The next morning, Walter asked to speak with me on the porch. He arrived carrying no folder and no apology gift, looking older than he had beneath the deputy's lights. I told him he would not question the girls or ask to see them. He confirmed first that the laundry arrangement had never been temporary. He had seen the mattresses, the clothes in bins, and the girls carrying their things out of the room that became Mason's. After Patricia insisted they preferred sleeping together, he stopped challenging her. The admission did not make him brave. It only removed one place where he had been hiding. Then he admitted Chloe had come to him in May, when an earlier refill ran out. He paid for that supply himself. That refill carried Ava into late May, he said. The next request was the one they let lapse. He had known enough to pay once, but not enough to check the following bottle or call me. Patricia said you already had enough pressure, he told me. She said if I called, you would come home angry and turn everything into a fight. He had accepted that explanation because silence required less from him than conflict did. So, you protected the peace. I was trying to keep the family together. The girls slept beside a dryer while you kept everyone together. He flinched, but did not argue. 2 weeks before I returned, Walter had heard Brooke tell Chloe to say she managed the medicine because she was responsible and liked doing things herself. When Chloe did not answer, Brooke said a mature girl knew how to protect the people who kept her safe. The front door opened behind me. Chloe stood in the doorway, holding the medication notebook against her chest. Walter's face changed when he saw her. I am sorry, he said. Chloe looked at me, not him. Did he know? Yes, I said. Walter stepped toward the door. Chloe, I should have... You came to tell Mom, she said. Not me. He stopped. I came to tell the truth. You knew the truth when we lived there. Her voice was not loud. That made the sentence harder to escape. Walter had come prepared to confess to me, the adult who could forward his words. He had not prepared to face the child who had asked for help while he remained quiet. He lowered his head. Chloe went back inside and closed the door. Walter remained on the porch. I will give a statement, he said. You will state only what you personally saw and heard. I know more than that. You suspect more. That is not the same. He nodded. This does not make you the person who saved them, I said. I know. I was not sure he did, but I had no need to convince him. His statement had value only if it stayed inside the limits he had avoided for 8 months. That afternoon, Walter sent 3 paragraphs confirming only the ongoing sleeping arrangement, the earlier refill he paid for, and Brooke's instruction that Chloe accept responsibility. There was no request for forgiveness. I forwarded it to the county. 2 days later, the contractor's formal response arrived. Brooke denied that the girls had been denied appropriate housing. She described the laundry room as a temporary shared sleeping space chosen by the sisters. Patricia denied responsibility for delayed medication. She wrote that Chloe had insisted on managing Ava's schedule because she was unusually mature. The final paragraph stated that Chloe had concealed the remaining tablet count from the adults and had independently chosen to divide doses, despite being told not to do so. I read the paragraph again. The same response that described Patricia and Brooke as committed caregivers described Chloe as independent, whenever responsibility became dangerous. They had signed reports claiming adult-managed medical supervision. Now they were placing the failure inside the hands of the same 14-year-old they had praised for being easy to manage. Chloe entered the study while the response was still open. I closed the laptop before she could read it. What did they say? She asked. I looked at the notebook under her arm. They said the medicine was your responsibility. Her face emptied of expression. Then she nodded once, as though they had finally repeated the answer she had been trained to expect. Brooke's response turned Chloe's survival skills into proof that she required no adult protection. When Chloe asked whether the county would believe it, I told her I would answer with the adult records, not her notebook. The old calculation returned to her face. If the adults failed, she would have to step in. I am not asking you to rescue the case, I said. She looked away, but kept the notebook beneath her arm. The next morning, Brooke requested a private call. Patricia joined from the same room. They sat side by side beneath the framed landscape that had appeared behind Chloe and Ava in nearly every Sunday video. Brooke began with the voice she used when she wanted cruelty to sound reasonable. We want to end this without damaging the girls any further. You blamed Chloe for Ava's medication after signing that adults supervised it. Patricia insisted I did not understand the 8 months I had missed, and repeated that the girls had chosen to sleep together. In a laundry room, I said. It was heated. I let the silence remain. Brooke placed a document on the table in front of her. We are prepared to return part of the money your mother received. How much? $30,000. Less than a third of what I had sent. Brooke continued before I answered. We will also remove the girls' photographs from our current materials and agree not to use them in future campaigns. You never had permission to use them that way. You signed a release. For one grief? Support activity after Daniel died, not 8 months of reports and events. That difference can be disputed, Brooke said. Or we can resolve it privately. What do you want? You withdraw your compliance complaint and inform the county that this was a family communication breakdown, not a failure of services. Patricia folded her hands. You acknowledge that you left the children in our care voluntarily and that Chloe frequently insisted on handling Ava's routine. I felt the attraction before the anger. The photographs would disappear, $30,000 could be placed into accounts for the girls, and the review might end before either child was pressured again. I could close the door. Then Brooke added, if you continue, we will have to provide the complete context. What context? The calls you missed. The times you ended early. The fact that Chloe asked you to return and you refused. Patricia's expression did not change. Including the call where you told her you could not fly home every time something happened. There it was. They believed my shame belonged to them. I had spent days fearing that sentence because it was true. I had said it. I had failed to ask what Chloe meant. I had given Patricia a phrase she could repeat whenever the girls considered asking for help. Brooke mistook my silence for fear. The county will hear that you chose the company, she said. They will hear that you became wealthy while we did the parenting. You want me to protect your program by agreeing that Chloe was responsible for Ava's medicine. We want you to stop rewriting your absence as our abuse. If I accepted, they would return some money and remove the girls' faces while leaving the explanation untouched. Brooke's program would still be called successful. Patricia would remain the stable caregiver. Chloe would remain responsible for the medication. My daughters would be released from the photographs, but trapped inside the story. No, I said. Brooke blinked. No to which part? All of it. Patricia leaned back. Then do not complain when the truth about you becomes part of the record. It should. Neither of them spoke. I was gone for 8 months, I continued. I trusted calls that were controlled. I failed to give the girls a private way to reach me. Chloe asked me to come home, and I answered with impatience. I will put that in my statement myself. Brooke's face hardened. You think admitting a few mistakes makes you noble? No, it makes those mistakes mine. I placed my hand on the county notice beside the laptop. What belongs to you is the room, the money, the school releases, the delayed refill, and the documents you signed. Patricia's voice sharpened. Chloe is old enough to know that cutting medication is wrong. She is also young enough to require an adult to make sure the medication does not run out. She hid the tablet count. You signed that you supervised it. Brooke closed the document in front of her. This conversation is over. Yes. I ended the call before they could decide they had dismissed me. Refusing did not feel victorious. $30,000 was gone again. The photographs would remain until the county acted, and my failures would enter a record I could not control. But Chloe would not carry them for me. In my statement, I admitted that I had chosen the sale and transition, relied on controlled calls, and failed to create private contact with each child. I included the sentence I had said to Chloe, without surrounding it with excuses. Sending $12,000 each month had not transferred my responsibility to notice whether my daughters felt safe enough to speak. Then, I reduced the adult records to 3 contradictions. Patricia and Brooke claimed adult medical supervision, then blamed Chloe for the divided doses. They reported separate, age-appropriate sleeping space, while the deputy found 2 mattresses and the girls' belongings in the laundry room. They described program events as voluntary, while school records showed Patricia signing the girls out during class. I attached the documents supporting those points, and nothing created privately by the children. Before sending the statement, I showed Chloe only the list of adult records. "You included what you did wrong?" she asked. "Yes. They will use it against you." "They may. Hiding it would ask you to protect me from my own failure." She checked once that I was not using the notebook or videos. I said no. "And if the county still asks for us?" I say no again. If the adult records are not enough, the adult process continues without turning you into evidence. I sent the statement that afternoon. 2 days later, the county confirmed the review date. The notice listed Brooke and Patricia as contractor representatives, Walter as a voluntary witness, and me as the reporting parent. Chloe and Ava were not listed. At breakfast, Chloe read the notice once and handed it back. "Are there going to be empty chairs for us?" she asked. "No, you are not expected." She nodded. Though I could tell, part of her still believed every important room contained a place she might be ordered to fill. On the morning of the review, I placed the 3 folders in my bag. Money, school, program. The private videos remained on the encrypted drive in my locked desk. Chloe's notebook remained with Chloe. Before I left, Ava asked, "What do we have to do?" "Go to school." "That's all?" "That is all." Chloe stood beside her, watching me for the hidden instruction. There was none. I closed the front door behind me, knowing the county might decide my evidence was incomplete. But for the first time since I came home, my daughters were not being asked to make an adult story believable. The county conference room had no bench, jury box, or audience. 3 county officials sat across from us with laptops open. They had already spent weeks comparing the contractor reports, renewal exhibits, school releases, sheriff's observations, and written statements. This conference was Brooke and Patricia's chance to answer the contradictions before an interim decision. Brooke arrived in the navy suit from her program photographs. Patricia sat beside her, while Walter took the chair at the far end. I placed my 3 folders in front of me. Money, school, program. The compliance director reminded us that the meeting concerned the nonprofit's county contract and that my private transfers mattered only where they appeared in program records. When the director asked whether Chloe and Ava would attend, I said they were at school. Brooke accused me of speaking for them while withholding their accounts. I am presenting documents created by adults. She tried to make my 8-month absence the center of the meeting. I acknowledged it because it was already in my statement. Patricia then said, "We became the parents in every practical sense." The director looked at the renewal report. "Then you are confirming that you and Brooke were responsible for daily care." Patricia said yes. Brooke added that the program had supported the household. The first question was responsibility for Ava's medication. Patricia said Chloe had insisted on managing the routine. Brooke called her unusually mature. "That was not the question," the director said. She placed the signed report between them. It stated that the primary household caregiver supervised medication with program oversight. Patricia tried to separate supervision from administering each tablet, then claimed Chloe had concealed the shortage. "How old was Chloe?" the director asked. 14. "And Ava?" 10. "So your position is that a 14-year-old changed a 10-year-old's prescribed dose and prevented the adults who claimed supervision from discovering it?" "Children sometimes make poor decisions," Brooke said. The sentence entered the room and stayed there. She had just claimed the authority of a caregiver and the innocence of an observer in the same breath. I provided the pharmacy history, Walter's payment for the earlier refill, the deputy's observation of the pill cutter, and Walter's statement. The later refill had been submitted late, not denied by insurance. Brooke accused Walter of interfering. I know Chloe asked me because each of you said the other was handling it, he replied. I paid once and failed to check again. You are making yourself sound innocent, Patricia said. I am not innocent. His answer stopped her more effectively than a defense. The second question was where the girls slept. Patricia called the laundry room a shared space the sisters had chosen. The director read the deputy's description of 2 thin mattresses stored behind the dryer, plastic bins beneath detergent shelves, and no permanent bedroom furniture. Then she placed that report beside the program's signed claim of separate, age-appropriate sleeping space. It was heated, Patricia said. They had access to the whole house. That is not what the report claimed, the director replied. It was an administrative description, Brooke said. Was it accurate? She did not answer. I placed the room conversion invoice beside the renewal exhibit, showing Patricia's $4,000 transfer and the expense ledger allocating it to the renovation of Chloe's former room for Mason. Mason is family too, Patricia said. So are Chloe and Ava. The issue is not that Mason received a room. It is that their money entered the program, while the program claimed credit for housing them beside a dryer. The third question concerned program events. Brooke called the girls willing participants, who found meaning in helping other bereaved children. The school records showed Patricia signing them out during class. They never objected, Patricia said. I remembered Chloe balancing a tray against her hip and Ava waiting for her sister to smile before smiling herself. Did they have the option to remain at school? The director asked. Families do not vote on every activity. The finance officer looked up from his notes. Brooke tried to repair the answer by saying the girls understood the program's importance. The photo release created another problem. I had authorized one grief support activity after Daniel died, not ongoing contractor reports and fundraising. The director said the scope would be reviewed and prohibited further use in the meantime. By then, the 3 contradictions were fixed in the record. The adults had claimed medical supervision and blamed Chloe. They had certified proper bedrooms and defended mattresses beside a dryer. They had described voluntary participation while admitting the girls had no choice about leaving school. Walter then confirmed hearing Brooke instruct Chloe to say she liked managing the medication because she was responsible. That is not what I said, Brooke replied. You told her that a mature girl knows how to protect the people who kept her safe. I was encouraging her confidence. You were telling her what answer protected the program. Patricia struck the table and accused him of sitting silently for 8 months only to betray the family now. Walter went pale. I sat there and did nothing, he said. That is why I am not withdrawing the statement. The director asked once more whether I would allow a limited interview with Chloe without Brooke or Patricia present. No. It may leave some questions unresolved. I understand. You are accepting that risk? Yes. A month earlier, I would have treated the warning as a challenge. I would have searched for one more file, called one more person, or pressed Chloe until she produced the sentence that closed every gap. Now I understood that an incomplete case could be more just than a complete one, built from a child's fear. We waited in the hallway while the county representatives conferred. Brooke and Patricia stood together at the far window. Walter sat alone beneath a bulletin board of public service notices. No one spoke to me. 25 minutes later, the compliance director read the interim findings. Her voice remained procedural, which made the result feel less like punishment and more like a system finally refusing to skip its own questions. The county was suspending the nonprofit's family support contract, pending a full audit. Undisbursed funds would be placed on hold. The program had to remove Chloe and Ava's images from county-funded and public-facing materials. Financial records connected to the household support transfers would be referred for further review, including the room conversion allocation and the claims of medical supervision. No criminal finding had been made. No final repayment amount had been determined. The private money I had transferred would require a separate process. Brooke stared at the director. You are closing services based on a family disagreement. We are suspending a contract based on material inconsistencies in the contractor's own records. Patricia pointed toward me. She abandoned those children and is being rewarded. The director closed her folder. This is not a reward. There was no dramatic silence after that. No one applauded. No officer entered. The clock continued ticking above the cabinet. The system Brooke had built was not destroyed in one sentence. It had simply stopped accepting her version without questions. When I reached home, school had already ended. Ava sat at the kitchen table drawing. Chloe stood beside the counter with the canvas bag hanging from one shoulder. She searched my face. What happened? The contract is suspended while they audit the records. The pictures have to come down. Did they ask for us? Yes. Her hand closed around the bag strap. What did you say? No. That was all? That was all. She looked toward Ava. Did Grandpa talk? He told them what he saw and heard. Did they believe him? They did not have to believe one person. They compared what the adults said with what they signed. I touched none of the papers in her bag. You did not have to say anything. Chloe looked at me for a moment, then lowered the canvas bag from her shoulder. For a moment, she held it by the strap beside her leg. Then she placed it on the floor near the kitchen wall. Not hidden. Not within reach. Just down. Ava looked up from her drawing. Are we in trouble? No, I said. What do we have to do now? Nothing. Chloe stared at the bag, as though she expected someone to order her to pick it up. No one did. By the beginning of October, the maple tree behind our house had started dropping yellow leaves across the patio. The county audit remained open. Brooke's contract was still suspended, the program had closed after the next funding round was withheld, and every photograph of Chloe and Ava had been removed. Some money had been returned while the rest moved through slower reviews of transfers and invoices. I stopped refreshing the case every morning. Nothing in our home became safer when I watched an inbox. Patricia sent 2 letters that explained her choices without apologizing for them. Brooke asked once more for a statement from the girls to support her appeal. I filed the letters away and did not answer. Walter asked to speak with the girls. Ava said she was not ready. Chloe said perhaps someday, but not yet. He accepted the boundary without reaching around me. It did not erase what he had allowed, but it was the first time he accepted a child's no without asking her to comfort him. Inside our house, change arrived in smaller measurements. Ava stopped asking permission before taking food from the refrigerator, though she still announced what she was taking as if someone were keeping an inventory. Chloe stopped carrying the canvas bag from room to room. It remained on a shelf in her bedroom, with the adoption papers, birth certificates, and Daniel's death certificate still inside. She had not asked me to move them to the safe. I had not offered. The medication notebook stayed on her nightstand. For weeks, she checked it every morning before school and every night before bed. She compared my notes with the bottle, then counted the remaining tablets herself. I did not tell her to stop. Each time, I made sure the prescription had been administered correctly. Then I returned the bottle to the cabinet and let her decide whether to verify it. Trust was not built by demanding that she demonstrate trust. It grew through ordinary mornings when the count matched, the refill arrived, and no one punished her for checking. One Thursday morning, Chloe brought me a permission form for an after-school environmental project at the reservoir. Ava asked who would stay with her. I will. Chloe watched me before asking. All afternoon? Yes. What if work calls? They can leave a message. The question was not whether I could stay with Ava. It was whether Chloe could leave without something going wrong. I signed the form and told her she could still change her mind. Since leaving the transition role, I had accepted limited consulting work from home, but there was no flight waiting at the end of a difficult week. Chloe folded the form into her backpack. At 7:45, I opened the medicine cabinet and prepared Ava's dose. Chloe stood beside me with the notebook. I recorded the time on the paper schedule. Chloe checked the bottle, then wrote the same time in her notebook. Neither of us commented. That afternoon, I received a message from her school. I am going. 3 words. No explanation. No request for reassurance. At 5:20, Ava and I found Chloe laughing with the other students near the reservoir. She saw our car and lifted one hand but finished tying a collection bag and said goodbye before walking over. How was Ava? She asked. I drew the backyard, Ava said, holding up a page of green and yellow circles. And Mom burned the first grilled cheese. 1 corner, I said. The whole corner. Chloe looked at me. No medical emergency, no missing child, 1 damaged sandwich. On the drive home, Chloe talked about the trail, the other students, and a teacher who had lost a shoe in the mud. She did not ask about the medication until we reached the house. Then she stopped in the kitchen. The notebook was not in her backpack. Her face changed. I left it. Where? On my desk. You mean at home? She looked toward the stairs. The notebook lay exactly where she had left it that morning. Nothing had happened because it stayed behind. Chloe picked it up, but she did not open it immediately. She looked at the paper medication schedule beside the cabinet, then at the clock. Did Ava take the afternoon dose? Yes. What time? 4:15. Ava called from the living room. I took it with chocolate milk. Chloe opened the notebook to record the time. Her pencil hovered over the page. Then she closed the cover. You can write it, I said. I know. She placed the notebook on the kitchen counter, instead of carrying it upstairs. It stayed there through dinner. The next week, Chloe attended a second club meeting. This time, she left the notebook beside the paper schedule before school. She did not announce that she was leaving it. I did not praise her. Ava watched Chloe walk to the bus stop, then looked at the notebook. What if you forget? I have the schedule, the reminders, and the prescription instructions. What if your phone does not work? The paper still works. What if the paper gets wet? I will print another one. Ava considered that. What if the printer breaks? Then I will write it by hand. She seemed satisfied enough to finish her cereal. The habits did not disappear all at once. Ava still tucked snacks into her backpack for later. Chloe still woke some nights and checked whether Ava was breathing. Some evenings she carried the notebook upstairs again, after leaving it out all day. I still felt an urge to promise that nothing bad would ever happen again. I stopped making promises no parent could keep. Instead, I kept appointments. I answered calls. I told them when I would be late before I was late. I asked questions and waited when they were not ready to answer. When I made a mistake, I named the mistake without asking them to relieve me of it. One Tuesday evening, Ava came into the kitchen while I was preparing dinner. She carried her medication bottle in both hands. Chloe was upstairs finishing homework. The notebook remained on the counter, unopened since morning. Ava placed the bottle beside the cutting board. I looked at it, then at her. There were only a few tablets left. For a second, I saw the laundry room again. The dryer beneath my hand. White powder inside the blue cutter. 2 thin mattresses, behind a wall shaking with music. Ava did not lower her eyes. I need a refill, she said. No apology followed. She did not say the medicine was expensive. She did not promise to make it last. She did not ask whether needing it would cause trouble. I checked the label and the calendar. You are right. I will order it tonight. Okay? That was all. At dose time, I took 1 full tablet from the bottle and placed it in her palm. Ava swallowed it with water, set the empty glass beside the sink, and went upstairs to finish her drawing.